One moment, everything is under control. The next, the pilot faces a life-or-death decision, forced to determine the perfect split second to pull the ejection handle and escape an otherwise inevitable death. In this video, we will go through 7 most insane moments when pilots had no choice but to eject at the very last second. It was one of the most gorgeous air shows in Europe that occurred on August 28, 1988, at the Ramstein Air Base in West Germany. 3 aircraft of the Italian Air Force display team collided during their display, crashing to the ground in front of a crowd of about 300,000 people. The pilots were attempting to perform a maneuver known as the piercing heart, which requires the planes to rocket toward each other at 350 miles per hour and crisscross only a few feet apart. But suddenly the disaster strikes the area, causing 70 fatalities, including 67 spectators and 3 pilots, and 346 spectators sustained serious injuries in the resulting explosion and fire. Hundreds more had minor injuries. At the time, it was the deadliest air show accident in history until the Sknyliv Air Show that claimed 77 lives in 2007.
Pilots are attempting a maneuver called the piercing heart. Stunt calls for the planes to rocket toward each other at 350 miles per hour and crisscross only a few feet apart. Suddenly, disaster strikes.
An air show is always full of excitement and thrilling aviation experiences where you enjoy the breathtaking maneuvers performed by clever pilots. But sometimes this excitement goes horribly wrong. During the Paris Air Show in 1989, an advanced Soviet MiG-29 combat aircraft crashed in flames on a grassy apron of Le Bourget Airport in Paris. The Soviet pilot, who had thrilled the crowd with a complicated series of high-performance maneuvers just before the crash, managed to eject himself from the crippled jet at an altitude of only 100 feet only seconds before the plane slammed nose first into the ground, up to only 700 feet away from the closest spectators. It was 27 July 2002 during an aerobatics presentation at Sknyliv Airfield in Ukraine, when a Ukrainian Air Force Sukhoi Su-27 aircraft crashed into the crowd of spectators. The aircraft entered a rolling maneuver with a downward trajectory at low altitude. It rolled upright once more and was still descending rapidly when the left wing dropped shortly before it hit the ground, at which point the crew initiated ejection. The accident claimed the lives of 77 people and injured 543. However, both the pilots had narrowly escaped from this fatal accident. They had been luckily able to eject just a second before their plane burst into flames. A total of 543 people were injured in the accident. It was arguably the deadliest airshow accident in history. The Royal Air Force was behind one of the greatest air shows in time. 250,000 people experienced a sky rumbling with colors and excitement. Perhaps a bit too much when 2 MiG-29s smashed into each other. It was just a couple of centimeters which brought these 2 fighters to its knees. When the edge of each of the wings touched each other in the last maneuver, the speed was together about 1,100 kilometers per hour. The thoughts went back to the deadliest air show catastrophe at Ramstein. Such a tragedy could have repeated itself when one of the MiGs was falling towards the audience. But misfortune was kind this day. Nobody were hit when the MiG crashed into the ground and exploded a second time. The 2 Russian pilots ejected instantly and landed safely with their parachutes. The arresting cable breaks when this F-18 Hornet lands in the USS George Washington carrier on September 11, 2003. The pilot landed on the last arresting cable. However, to his misfortune, the cable stretched to the breaking point, and the plane ended in the water. The cable snapping back at more than 100 miles per hour had severely injured 7 crew members on the deck, and 2 of them had been instantly evacuated by helicopters. But the luckiest part is that the pilot safely ejected just at the very last moment, and one of the crew members had miraculously jumped the broken cable, which was waving under him, and more miraculously, he jumped not once, but twice. This incident clearly demonstrates how important the arresting cable is when it comes to landing on an aircraft carrier and how risky the life is on the flight deck. This is a British fighter jet pilot ejecting from the plane moments before it is completely engulfed in fire. The incident took place in Afghanistan in May 2009, when the Royal Air Force Harrier was landing at Kandahar Airfield. The pilot tried to prevent a major mishap and managed to control the aircraft until the very last minute, but was ultimately forced to eject as the flames reached the cockpit. The hair-raising video has started a debate among social media users, with some people wondering why the pilot waited for so long to leave the plane. And luckily, he survived with minor injuries. His courage and patience has earned him a huge admiration from the netizens.